We got a gallery here. Anybody at home got show and tell?
We'll also do the this month's challenge was animals. If anyone has
Oh,
any
I
turned
forgot
out.
about that. Yeah. Bruce, you got something? You're muted.
Yeah, that's true too. I am muted. All right. Let's see. I have a piece I just finished. Why does it show up in two places here? Finder. Let's try this one. Okay. You have that now? Yeah. So this is a piece of spalted magnolia. I was able to get a few pieces from Florida, wet and sealed, that I've been working my way through. And this had some punky spots, but still succumbed pretty well to being a hollow form. The grain and the patterns on it are pretty unique. So from the top, you can see it's quite different all the way around, but this is the other side of it.
We got your screen.
What do you have?
It's okay. Sorry.
Okay. And this view, I feel like it's staring at me because you see two eyes actually in it. The piece is very glossy, and even though I have a diffuser on my light box, I just can't seem to get rid of the pattern of the LED lights out of it, and I still need to work on that a little bit, I think, on the photography, but I think the piece is about right. Anyway, it's finished in waterlocks, about four coats, I believe, and otherwise there's nothing really unique about what I did, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
The wood with anything?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Did you treat the punky part of the wood with anything?
I didn't. Actually, I guess that's not true. I put some cellulose sealer on. I tried once, and that didn't seem to do anything. And then I just decided to live with it, and it kind of stained dark. I'm not sure if the pictures got any of the pieces. It's not real obvious. No, I guess I was smart enough not to take a picture where the punky stuff is. Although it is punky right up here on top. And you could kind of see that doesn't have the same finish on it that the rest of the piece has. But it just hardened up nicely with the oil, and didn't seem to distract too much. So I decided to let it lie. Yeah, you can't see the other beds. I think there's another bad spot right here. The good news is it held together when I hollowed it.
Okay, is that it from you?
That's all I got.
Nice piece.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there in Zoom land?
A dragonfly, it's a one-piece poly I turned for the body, and I had some old scrap of orange epoxy, not showing up very well, that I turned little bee eyes.
Hold it back over there. Yeah, there you go.
Forget your weather forecaster.
And the wings were a time challenge. They weren't hard to make. They were just time consuming drawing those little lines. But it's just plastic with the top off of, like if you take out shrimp or something from a grocery store. I just cut the lid off that and cut it into the wings, and it's got wire leg, and then a blending of kind of neon green and blue for the body. It's pretty true to the colors of a pure monarch dragonfly. And curiously, on the eyes, it doesn't come across here, but I wanted to put a pupil, so I put a real tiny dot of black. But because it's basically spheres, the little dot shows up as like right hand on, like 1/8 of an inch. And that way it can be.
Yeah, Tom's looking right at you. Coming right in on. Now that's a hell of a thing. That camera's 15 feet away.
Yeah, it could zoom these. See the wing detail. In hindsight, I wouldn't have had to put wire reinforcing this plastic. It was, I think it was 19,000th of an inch thick, which is a lot thicker than I was playing around with earlier. And I thought it would need the wire to stiffen it. And so it has some 1 millimeter 304 stainless wire on the leading edges. That's my animal. I was gonna make a mouse until, thank you. Until I think Matt said it could be any kind of animal, including insects. I had this holly laying around.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Very nice, Jack.
What's the wood?
Pollock. And I stained it with some old gray stain.
You turn the eyes too.
No, they're little beads glued in. The ears are leather and the tail's leather.
Jack, it's too fat to fit in a trap.
I don't think I've turned in almost a year now. So my nephew gave me a piece of wood from when I was last up in Canada, and it was it's not necessarily obvious, but it was a branch with a large piece pulling around it, like a bulb on the side. And so I started turning away at it and wasn't entirely certain what I was intending to do with it. This is sort of the shape that arrived. I thought it's sort of neat because it's got natural edge on both sides. If you think about it, getting a natural edge from a normal round piece with that's that deep is impossible for sort of thing. And the way I had turned this inside is obviously mounted on there. I have hollow form tools that were Jordan's hollow form tools, So I reversed I turned the scraper upside down in the hollow form tool and went in sideways with the hollow form and pulled it and did that way to get it out. Otherwise, it would have been bloody knuckles all around.
Did you have any support behind the wheels?
Nope. I cut
Those tools lay around, they create strange things.
No, yeah, I cut the wings. I cut the back here first. So it's actually, I started on the outside and came down, did the outside and then did the inside this way in.
And it photographed the piece before you cut it.
Yeah, I know. That's what my wife said. That's what everybody said. But now you can just think of it as a mystery. There, very.
The live edge on the bigger piece appeared to be heading outward.
Yeah.
You'd expect the second layer couldn't be live edge unless the tree had like a elliptical cross section.
Exactly.
Two pieces together.
Well, if you can find the glue right there, go for it.
Printer.
Pardon? 3D printer. No, there's another idea. I have to think about it. Has anybody done any 3D printing for wood?
That's your unique concept.
Well, it sort of just arrived. I didn't know what I was going to make when I started off. That's what happened. And you're right, Barry. The actual branch was sort of a U shape to start with. If you take a look at it, you can actually see the grain going through, or the branch going through
Okay, the branch was furrowed.
Yeah, as well as the growth on one side of it. So anyway,
What wood is it, Doug?
it's one of those what do I say? DFIK. Damned if I know.
Tree wood. Definitely from a tree.
Definitely from a tree. There you go. No, my nephew just handed it to me, and he didn't say it. To me, it looks like it's well, anybody's guess actually. Looks like it might be locust or something, but I'm not sure. No, I don't think it's box elder. It's too hard. It's the heart of the rock. It took a while to sand it, and all that sanding by hand is. Thanks, Doug.
Hi, I'm Mike. A couple months ago now, I guess John had his Spiricon box he showed on the coffee hour. While I don't attend them live, I do kind of look at the videos when I get a chance, and I was impressed and amazed and inspired, so I had to go out and make some of my own. These aren't boxes, these are just the shape. This is a four-sided shape. And then you look online and there's hundreds of different shapes they make these things out of. And online, they're all 3D printed. And I figured if you can 3D print it, you should be able to turn it. They're almost the same thing. So I ended up making.
Category name for these things?
I'm sorry?
Is there a category name?
Category name.
They're streptohedrons, which are twisted polygons, or twisted polyhedra.
Okay, I've also heard them called oloids.
Yeah, well,
And-
the one he had before is a double cone. Twisted double cone.
Right. This is a six-sided, turned out like a hexagon, where it's again split in half and twisted 60 degrees and glued back together. And to go a little further, this is the exact same thing, only instead of flat across the side, you got to dish them out. And the challenging part of this one is this curve right here has to match this curve and this curve exactly. And that's just a lot of trial and error with little plastic templates. And while this one you can turn with a gouge, these do much better with a scraper because you're going undercutting end grain.
How much after blue sanding did you have to do on the joint?
Not too much, but probably more now that it moved. The wood wasn't as dry as I had hoped. It was mostly dry, but I got to use what I have that's the right size. And as you can actually feel, the joints have all moved from it sitting for a couple weeks. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but these aren't final. They're going to be burnt and painted and carved and everything else to them. So that'll all disappear. And they're a lot of fun to play with. There really isn't room to roll them here, but if you're here in person, put them on the floor and give them a roll. They kind of roll wobbly. And this one actually turns 90 degrees as it goes. It's interesting.
The reason they roll, it's not really the reason, but they're also solids of constant diameter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Solids of constant diameter. There we go. To me, they're just neat. I like art that moves. That's why none of my bowls have a flat bottom. They all have a round bottom, so they rock. So that's what I've been working on. I hope to bring a lot of different shapes next time.
Really cool.
John, John, you're familiar with David Springett?
Yeah, he died in April.
Just passed away, but I have a book of his. And I'm not sure if these are in there or not. But I've read about these in another somewhere.
In his book, Turning Full Circle, some of these are detailed.
Yeah,
I mean, he has about 4 books.
yeah,
We have a couple of them in the library, which is in the closet over here, if anybody wants to borrow a book.
yeah, I have one. Yeah. You've got a phenomenal experience.
Put this bowl here.
Just pull it. Good.
This is a piece of dogwood that was in my wood pile that I had to decide, was I gonna throw it in the stove or do something with it? So I thought the shape was kind of unique as far as the piece, but it had like 4 different limbs that come off of it. So I decided to put it in a lathe and see what I come up with, and this is what I come up with here. A lot of spalted in it, different things. But it was starting to show some deterioration when I cut it. But I thought it turned out pretty neat. Just come out of the wood pile.
Very nice.
My show and tell piece was only nominally turning. A friend asked me to make her a charcuterie board, which I'd never even heard of the word until about 2 years ago in a restaurant. Anyhow, meats and cheeses and fruit and such, like an hors d'oeuvre platter. And the only part that's turned is these are Cocobolo handles on it that I turned into the shape of the dowel joining it to this is a ebonized white oak. And the top itself is, at an auction, I happened to get this wood and I never had a use for it. I had exactly 4 boards and I glued them, this is 4 boards glued together. It goes by a number of names. I think it's Morado, Morado. It's a Brazilian wood. And it's also called Brazilian ironwood and Bolivian rosewood and a bunch of other names. But it's in none of those families. It just happens to be very dense. It's about 65 pounds per cubic foot. And if you pick it up before you go out, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's the underside, the feet just are held on glued dowels. And the finish would not take any kind of finish. Danish oil just laid there, and after 2 days, it was just getting sticky and not absorbing. So I washed it all down, and I turned to our President Matt Kolareski's butcher block paste. Here he is back here. And so I wet sanded it down to about 1500 and put on butcher block paste and just kind of hand buffed it out. And I buffed the handles on the lathe so they turned out a lot glossier. But overall, I was happy with it. And she held off until tonight, or she held off until tomorrow to take possession of it. Any questions?
Did you ebonize that wood for the handle? Did you ebonize that yourself?
These grips here, yeah.
How'd you do that?
Well, first I tried to get it with just steel wool and vinegar, and I cut it to the shape and pretty much sanded it to the final shape and rounded over the edges and let it sit in vinegar and steel wool for probably about 3 days, and that got it nice and black. But you could see some whitish fibers when you got polishing on it. And so I did, we had a question about a year ago now about ebonizing, and somebody mentioned leather dye. And so back then I bought made in England leather dye. That'll sure enough turn it black.
And your fingers.
And my hand, even with gloves on, yeah, it winds up getting everywhere. And then after that, finally it looked too purplish. So I did Kelsey solution, which is a magic marker. So it has like a 3-stage system of ebonizing. Bottom line, it should have been a finer grained wood to look like ebony.
So this is silver maple, and I fire sanded the finial and then put black gilders paste or gold gilders paste on the finial. So I've been here in 2 months, so I brought more than one. This is the thing I demoed. I've been working on some different piercings. This is one of the rose medallions from the from Notre Dame. So, could you come up here and lie down on the floor where the X is, and then I'll just stand on it. Let's see.
Is there a paper pattern you put on that?
So yeah, no, I did it by eye. Yes, there was absolutely a paper pattern that I copied a picture from the internet of this rose window in Notre Dame, and then I wetted it and glued it on here with just fixative, and then I pierced through it, and then I spent a ton of time sanding the individual piercings to try to get rid of the black, and I was semi-successful.
If you bust any of them, right?
You'll have to really inspect the piece to decide whether that's might have been the case or not. I don't know. This is a collaboration. It's got a long history. So Mike Kagan made the boat and gave it to Michael Kays, and Michael K's carved, did the Michael K's thing, carved the bottom of the boat. Yeah, before he did anything to it, he asked me if I wanted to do a collab. I said, fine. He said, I'm doing this boat. He said, here's what I'm thinking about. He did the bottom and he sent me a picture of the top white, cleared, not done, and the bottom all done. And I texted him back and I said, so I guess I get to do the top. And about 3 days later, he sent me back a picture and the top was all done. And I sort of was like, well, what am I going to do to that? Michael K's, you know, I'm not going to like sand over it or plane it down, or it's Michael K's work. So I decided I would make a sail for it. And so I made this sail out of a bowl that was turned, and then I carved it in, and then I made this mast by sort of multi-axis turning, and then I painted the mast and the sail with Gilder's paste. Well, first I did an acrylic, magenta acrylic, and then I Gilder's pasted with blue and purple, and then I represented the wind with gold Gilder's paste. But what I really liked about it, I don't know if I can, you see that?
Yeah.
So I carved, Michael had this theme going of this little fleur-de-lis sort of vine thing. So I carved through the sail, and then I used just 5-minute epoxy, or yeah, I think it was 5-minute epoxy with some red pigment to create this translucent thing that mimicked the part of the boat. And then I carved this wave sand for it because I wanted it sort of cresting. It needed sand, and I wanted it to sort of crest the waves like it was going, you know, in rough seas. And then Carol Hall, who some of you may have met, she came to the meeting a while back. She did the painting on the waves.
What is the base?
It's just a piece of basswood. Just a piece of basswood. Whoops. And then I have one more.
What was the wood for the sail?
I don't know. It's not important because it's
So thin.
it's yeah, it was probably a 1/4 inch thick. No, it had to be more than that. I don't know. 3/8 of an inch thick, and then I just went crazy. So this I'm calling this bowl number 2 because it's the second bowl that I've made. I don't make bowls. But at the Keystone auction, Mike had brought a bunch of, I think this was from you, right, Mike? Mike, someone who looks exactly like Mike, brought a bunch of rough turned bowls, and I bought one of them at the auction, and then I took it home and finished it. So that's bowl number 2. Who turned the cookies? That's remarkable. How did you turn the frosting? Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I got.